Hello, this is Dr. Garrett Castleberry, Program Director for Communication, Media, and Ethics here at Mid-America Christian University. I am here with our COM 2113 Media Culture and Social Influence Q&A lecture. It is our asynchronous dialogue for week 2, and we are quickly playing catch up, getting into the groove of things, and studying the course forward. As I work to choose words a little bit quicker, we're going to take some questions from the participants in our class this session, and that's going to help us dig into the readings a little bit more. We're going to look at questions from all of our primary texts, including Arthur Asa Berger's Messages, Arthur Asa Berger's Media and Society, if I can get my head over the book, as well as some select portions from Kathleen Glenister Roberts' Communication Theory and Millennial Popular Culture. And so here we go. We have a limited time today, as always, shouldn't we? We have infinite time, yet limited time. And such is the paradox of life. So we want to jump in and try to answer as many of our interesting student questions as possible. These have been handpicked, cherry-picked, I don't know, from the students, from reading assignments in the class, and hopefully we will be able to tease out some additional information here that's going to help everyone out. Help us a little bit further down the road. So one of the things we did as we broke into this book was we read the introduction, as well as in week 2 there was, it sort of pops up in two places, there was a chapter from the book that ties into one of our other readings for the week, Stuart Hall's Encoding Decoding essay, and the chapter from Robert's book reflects directly off of that Stuart Hall piece. So perhaps you got them in the right order, read Hall first, or at least looked through it, and then went to the secondary text from the Roberts book that uses TV's Breaking Bad as an example to hopefully add clarity to that text, to that theoretical model, I guess we should say. Let's look at some questions from Juanita. From Robert's introduction, according to research, millennials are thought to have neurological differences compared to their parents. Based on this statement, what differences are there between millennials and their parents? Is there supporting evidence? Now, a lot of questions, a lot of interesting questions from varying perspectives came in this week regarding and using the term millennials, right? And I was seeing it in contested ways even show up, and I think that's good. I think that's healthy, and I think that's part of what gives this book some spark. Is the editor and co-author and the contributing authors. The goal of this book is to close the gap between the ideas, the ways we practice, and how we talk about and understand the world around us between older and contemporary generations. And so if it's getting us thinking along those channels, it's doing the right kinds of work. So, but back to those quote-unquote differences, here's a couple of things I would suggest. We are seeing, and the research, it's necessary that research is performed, one, and that it's ongoing, two, right? Just because a study finds something doesn't mean all of a sudden, well, that's gospel truth, right? That can be taken as fact, and it's concrete, put it in the records, I guess, and we no longer need to reference it anymore. Research should be an ongoing process that we're constantly unpacking. And if that seems tedious, think about the need to, say, wash or vacuum out your car, right? Or clean your house, clean your, let me say this, we're on the internet, we're safe. Clean the bathroom in your house or apartment or workspace, okay? We have to constantly keep things up to date. Otherwise, we know these things will erode over time, right? And there are negative consequences to that. Well, the same thing goes with any kind of research we perform. And so that's one healthy way we can approach thinking about research, even thinking about theory. And there's an important question later on from Ezel on that. But that's one way we can think about how we find value in theories and methods, and ultimately research, right? And research isn't just some weird or mysterious dirty word that jumps around and gets used to make an argument. It's vital, it's important. It helps us validate reality, right? Seek the kinds of truth that can help us or the greater good, right? Move forward. And then I guess a lot of people use it to cash in, right? But something we can say about media effects and generational gaps, or really just media effects, is that digital technologies are changing the way we think, right? In terms of cognitive effect. Technologies, right, our uses of them are rewiring aspects of our cognition, our abilities to think, to store information, to recall information, our attention spans. All of these things are altered by our technology uses. It's not that the technology itself is altering it, right? Like, no. You know, let me put my, you know, what do you call it? Saran wrap, steel wrap hat on to protect from like the radio waves. That's not how it works at all. But our sort of the uses, the abundant uses that we have for these types of things, get the lighting reset there. There is an impact that it has. Okay, and so we need to first become aware, conscientious of this, and then start to actively plan and prepare and like answer those questions for ourselves. Well, so what now? What do we do? What do we collectively do? What do we do on an individual level? What do we do as potential opinion leaders, decision makers for those around us, and so on? So great question. It gets us really thinking about the themes of this class, right? This idea of how media culture operates and the ways in which it creates social influence. Shifting over to the Berger text, media and society, by allowing, similar theme, by allowing our children to watch adult television content. And this is a serious question. How do you think children are affected? And first of all, I'll pause and table and say, this is part of a larger question we do want to engage and talk about. We're going to discuss it a lot more in an upcoming week. I believe one of the later weeks, week 4 in this class, as well as some of our other 2000 level courses, we're engaging in this ethics of media communication, of mass communication, of media effects. And so stay tuned to that, because there are important conversations we need to have. There can be harmful effects to prolonged exposure, and certainly we need to operate in ways that apply common sense. Of course, television never was intended to be the place where you park a child permanently, right, semi-permanently, so that they are no longer in the way as a parent or guardian or older sibling or whoever, right, grandparent, but rather we are meant to play active roles in their lives, and that can have an impact on them, influence. Okay, do you think social media makes us less individual? Is mass media shaping our values and influencing our perception? Lots of commentary here, and again, these are large questions that I feel like we are working to develop into our curriculum over the course of the common degree. You should be able to be presented with enough evidence, enough content, enough training to be able to sort these kinds of negotiative possibilities out. All right. So these are good questions that don't have the quick and easy answer for, unfortunately, today anyways. Right? Since how do I feel that? Maybe next week I feel like I can answer it in short form. A lot of people, well, they want to know how I feel, right? So I see where this is leading. People, it's all about the feels. And trying to get me emotionally stirred up. According to 2009 research, now we're looking, chapter 2 of Berger, Media and Society. Children spending 7.25 hours a day with media usage. Do you think the amount has increased since 2009? If so, do you think this has been a positive increase? It depends, right? Is the number of media usage increasing for some? No doubt. For others, perhaps it's stabilized somewhat. But I think it's shifting. It's changing, right? What we're using, how do we define media? And I do think we're using a lot of different types of media platforms to engage content. And it also varies, right? There are tons of programs and activities and things competing for space in our lives, competing for attention in our lives. And, so some might be already passing that threshold where they're monitoring a little bit more closely. Or, others may not be monitoring at all. And so that can create different types of challenges. So it's the problem with some of today's questions. It's not the problem of the question, it's just the problem of resolve. There may not be a neat and clean answer. According to Berger, 32% of American teenagers never read, and 50% sometimes read. Based on this assertion, do you think the use of technology has influenced this reading decline? Now, I'm going to put this up on the discussion board, but I found a couple of studies in the last 6 months that suggest that young people, let's use our term of the week, millennials, are actually reading more. Young people are reading more, but they're reading in shorter bursts. They're reading smaller amounts of content more, right? And so this is we can naturally understand where this is coming from. The idea of the way we use social media, small comments and posts that we share, we like, we take in, we add to. Even think about the way you communicate to friends and family through your smartphones. Okay, we're sending shorter text messages, and we're increasing our emojis. There's that emotion coming back into conversation again. And so what is an emoji? Emoji is shorthand, right? It's a symbol that's standing in for the linguistic expression we want to make, which is standing in for the communication, the nonverbal communication or verbal communication that we wish to exchange. And so back to the reading, we're reading more, but this is spread out in different ways. And arguably, one can read more and still have a shorter attention span at the same time. So there's an interesting transition taking place. According to Stuart Hall, the message is generated by a producer. The producer encoder generates the message in a certain way, while the decoder interprets the message according to his or her background. Based on this statement, do you agree this is the case for all readers, recipients of the message? Okay, skip to this question. Is personal background and influence on how the decoder interprets the message? That's the important question right there. Absolutely. And the examples we can think of backgrounds include how images can become reminders and have certain people react certain ways. there's this cultural term, trigger warnings. These are, when words even can create those types of meanings. So we'll continue these discussions and more coming up in part 2 of our week 2 video Q&A lecture.